What's up guys, I'm Luke, and today we're going to be talking about the pros and cons of daily driving a Porsche 928 as a 17-year-old in high school. Alright, first we're going to start off with the pros, and we're going to talk about looks. But I mean, just look at this thing. It's got like a 6-foot long hood and that huge bubble and glass in the back. It's just truly one of a kind. It looks like nothing else on the road, and half the time kids at my school think it's a Ferrari, which, I mean, I'll take it. I mean, it costs like 1/5 of a Ferrari, but... Okay, second thing, I mean, just listen to it. I mean, it does not sound like a Porsche. It sounds like a freaking Chevy. Okay, when you think Porsches, what kind of engines? You got 4 cylinders, flat 6 is like the thing everyone loves, but no, a V8. This car, being a 1982, the base model, only has 220 horsepower out of its 4.5 liter V8. But for the time, that was pretty good, especially having electronic fuel injection and all the smog deals back then. It was just kind of unheard of. I mean, a Mustang GT had less than 190 horsepower, so this was not bad for the time. Another benefit of this car was pop culture. I mean, if you know these sunglasses in this car, you already know we're talking about risky business. This car was in a ton of movies back then. You had Risky Business, but you also had TV shows like Scarface. And every single time I stop at the gas station, someone's asking me if I've watched Risky Business or Scarface. And you feel like them when you're driving it too. I mean, this is a 1980s supercar by any name. It just looks insane, like we were talking about earlier. It has a V8 in a Porsche. It just screams supercar, and it's so out there. And back then, this car's original MSRP was $45,000 on the original window sticker. That equates to almost $150,000 today. So, yes, it is a supercar. Another benefit of the 928 is the amount of space in the trunk. For one, you can fit so much stuff in here. I mean, I fit like 5 backpacks, and you have plenty of space for suitcases or whatever you want to put in here. And you put down these 2 rear seats, you pull this, it's massive. I mean, you can fit so much stuff, and the front seat is incredibly roomy. The back seats, I mean, they're Porsche back seats. They're great for passengers that are legless. So if you got any legless friends, throw them back there. But it overall has a ton of space, and the seats are ridiculously comfortable. It feels like a couch. And electric power seats in the 80s, that's insane. I mean, who doesn't want a built-in lazy boy for when you're road tripping? You should probably keep the e-brake on too when you're in park. Just, yeah. But yes, these seats, extremely comfortable. Like 10 out of 10. Okay, another thing we gotta talk about is this car's reliability. And some people would be scared off thinking, okay, this is a 40-year-old Porsche. It has a V8. The maintenance has to be insane. And to be honest, if you just do your routine maintenance, this car, it can go for a very long time. I mean, this thing's running strong. It's my daily driver. It has 163,000 miles. I mean, that's a testament that it still works. Not to mention, I've seen some of the 5-speed manual models hit almost 300,000 miles, and those things are still running strong. So if you just do your maintenance at the proper time, it'll run. Okay, so we just talked about the pros, so we're gonna talk about cons now. And I'm gonna follow up what I was talking about when it came to reliability. Yes, these are reliable, but if you're in the market for one of these, do not buy a car that was sitting. This car sat for like 10 years, and obviously one good thing to do is refresh all the fluids, which we basically have. But some of the stuff this car needed done was the timing belt and the water pump. Obviously we did a full tune-up, new spark plugs. That stuff seems relatively normal. But within 5,000 miles of me owning this car, the transmission basically just kaboom. The torque converter blew, and we had to get the whole thing rebuilt. And we're about what we paid for the car in maintenance done to it. So just be knowledgeable. If you're buying one of these, don't buy one that's been sitting. It's actually better to have a car with higher mileage that is being driven all the time than it is to have a 25,000 mile 928 that is driven in 20 years. So that's just a disclaimer when buying. Okay, so we just talked about maintenance, yes. But the second thing, like I said earlier, this is not a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder. It is a V8, so it gets V8 gas mileage. It is horrendous in the city. On the highway, you can manage almost about 20, or in some cases you can get 20 if you're babying it. But in the city, you're lucky to see 10, and you realistically average like 11 to 12, at least in my case. This car is extremely low, which is a downside of it. And you feel like you're absolutely gonna scrape everywhere. I mean, just take everything really slow because it's scary. The next con is finding parts to replace things. The 928 cost like 3 to 4 times the amount for parts than a 944. I mean, just little parts like this probably costs $300. It's just insane. And half the time, parts are not in stock. You can't get them from Porsche, and you'll have to get them used, and it's like $700 for something that's like a piece of plastic. Maybe not quite that bad, but you get the point. It's astronomically expensive. So, now we're driving the 928. Let's just talk about how this car performs. Actually, you know what? We should probably wait till that's a green light. Oh, never mind. You can see now, straight line performance, not amazing. If you want a fast 928, opt for a later one, and especially try to look for a manual. Problem with that, manuals, only about 20% of 928s are manuals, and they have a significant price increase. But if you have the extra money, I mean, I think it's definitely worth it. But in terms, that's for speed and acceleration. Handling though, this car is magnificent around corners. It feels so just tight around corners. And it's such a fun car to drive in the canyons. With that being said, it still is really comfortable. So you would think a sports car is all stiff. I mean, you hear that with all the newer Porsches that are like GT cars. They're super stiff, but they handle amazing. No, this car, it handles great, but it's also super comfortable. And in my opinion, it's a perfect blend between sports car and luxury car put together. So in my opinion, perfect suspension for me and my needs. And I mean, it's a little lacking in the performance department in a straight line, but overall, it's a ton of fun to drive, and it's all about the experience, just that old car experience and owning something rare that not everyone else has.